Alright, in today's video, I want to talk about uniques because uniques significantly change the gameplay of certain weapons, items, and gear in the game. And I want to showcase what some of them do, all the locations, and most importantly, I've whipped up a massive spreadsheet where you can reference all of the best ones that I have put together for you guys. We'll jump straight into the spreadsheet, straight into the meat and bones of this video. So, right here on screen, you can see a massive spreadsheet I've whipped up that has all of the best uniques in the game. Now, this took me a while to put up and a while to put together, but I've put together a tier list, effectively, of my personal picks for the best items for each tier, from tier 3 to tier 6 on uniques. I excluded tier 1 and 2 because those you shouldn't really be bothering with uniques. Even tier 3 and 4 I wouldn't really bother with. I would bother with the tier 4 uniques, sorry, but I even wouldn't really bother with tier 3 uniques because they get phased out relatively quickly. But as you approach tier 4, that's where you may want to start looking into some uniques depending on how long you think you will stay in those tiers. To start off with, there is some pretty cool uniques in this game that change the aspects of certain weapons. Now, we're going to showcase some of them. I don't want to talk about all of them because there is a lot in this video. And if you want a certain unique for your kind of weapon or gear, I'll have the spreadsheet in the description so you can easily check out which pieces of gear you want uniques for and what they do. Start off with the Jabal Spit Dart is a sniper fundamentally, but the uniques for the sniper change it to have poison AoE, triple shot bursts, and big single target damage being the best in slot one, which is the DUNE Watcher. There is a bunch of different uniques for that weapon and different ways to get them. Most importantly, I want to showcase how you can actually locate these uniques. Every single item on this spreadsheet I put together has a hot link that goes straight to the DUNE Awakening database. So I made an absolutely fantastic tool where you can keep track of everything in the game, where to get stuff, what it even costs. And simply by clicking that link on my spreadsheet, you'll be brought to a page where you can see the location of it on the map, where you can farm it, its quantity, what you can find it in, its probability, and even its altitude. So you can see absolutely everything about it. You can also see the detailed stats on this website. Now, I didn't want to include them on this website because this spreadsheet is fundamentally talking about the unique aspect, not the baseline stats, not the basic stats, the increased base stats. This website, or this spreadsheet, sorry, focuses on simply the unique aspect of each item. So if you want details, you can locate that when you go to locate where the item comes from. So again, the snipers, they have a bunch of cool effects ranging from poison, triple shot, and best in slot being a single target damage sniper called the DUNE Watcher. Next up, you have the drill shot. The drill shot is one of the best guns in DUNE Awakening, or the best dart weapons in DUNE Awakening, shall I say. And there is some really cool drill shots that have a burst shot effect. And there's even a best in slot one in tier 6 that fires 2 darts per barrel, which means every 2 shots in the magazine, you're actually firing 4 darts with 2 darts for 1 shot, which is really, really strong and is the best and hardest drill shot to get in the game. There's even drill shots that apply bleed effects in the game, such as the Penetrator, and that is also extremely strong. Last but not least, you have the Disruptor. Well, that's not last but not least. This is literally barely even 1% into all the uniques in the game. But yeah, the Disruptor. The Disruptor has some cool uniques as well, such as double darts per shot. And then in game, you have a tier 6 unique that does double darts and heavy darts for ammo. So it switches out from light darts, so you get a little bit more damage as well. So there's a bunch of really cool uniques that completely change the way weapons work. The Mauler has a unique that does automatic reloads, one that does a double shot that can puncture armor, similar to a drill shot, inherits that capability. There is also ones that have double shot effects, double shot bursts. And next up, we have the Snub Nose. This is actually one of my favorite pistols as of recently, because the uniques for the Disruptor Snub Nose have inherited a feature from the Disruptor. The Disruptor, as you might know, is used at high RPM to really melt shields. Well, the Snub Nose inherits that capability, but it packs it into a powerful charge shot. And I'll actually show this one in game because it is really cool when I actually use it myself. This is just the Artisan Disruptor, so it's actually only the tier 3 one. But when you shoot this thing, it charges up this massive shot, and this has the ability to two-shot drain shields with the compatible tiers. So if you're using a tier 3 artisan disruptor snubnose or a disruptor snubnose at tier 3 on a tier 3 enemy shielded enemy, it'll break their shield in 2 hits. If you're using a snubnose disruptor on a tier 4 enemy with a tier 4 version, same thing, 2 shots, and it so forth all the way until in game, as a tier 6 snubnose disruptor would also 2-shot melt an AI or enemy PvP shield, making it a very strong use case weapon, and why I absolutely love it. It also just absolutely packs a punch and is super satisfying. It also deals a massive amount of damage. Even just this tier 3 version I have does a whopping 166 damage per shot, which is among some tier 5 weapons. That's how strong this thing is, not only against shields. Jumping back onto the spreadsheet though, we have next up the Karpov, and the Karpov has some really cool effects where it can actually have an explosive effect on hit touch or hit effect. Much like the snipers, the Spit Dancer have a poison effect, the Karpov can have that little explosive AoE on hit. There's also a burst fire version of the Karpov, which I don't really like burst weapons, but that could be your cup of tea. Next up is the Scattergun. The Scattergun has bleed damage over time uniques and fire damage over time uniques, making it a very strong contender against shielded enemies, because not only are you now applying staggers against shielded enemies, you're applying a dot to them as well, which is incredibly strong. Next up, down the bottom, I have tabs for every kind of weapon in the game. So again, we're on the range tab. You can switch over to the melee tab, and now you can see all of the unique melees that I have researched. This ranges from Dirks, which is one of the daggers, that just saying straight out has increased base damage, which I'm not going to lie is one of the more lame uniques in the game, but I guess there had to be a simpler one out there somewhere. Next up is the Kindle. The Kindle starts to pick up where it has a bit of lightning jolts when you hit an enemy, which I think is pretty cool. You also get a stamina boost, which is quite neat as well. And that goes all the way up to the Replica Pulse Knife in tier 6. And then onto the sword next, you get a similar aspect where it has a jolt of energy, except this time instead of hitting an enemy and getting a stamina boost, you parry an enemy and it offers a stamina boost. Same thing, except it in a different proc, or it procs in a different way. Next up, and this is the Rapier, which is my favorite weapon in the game. This applies a poison burst when hitting an enemy that passes through shields, making it a very strong melee weapon and one of my favorites. There's again, of course, in-game versions of this that are also very strong. Now, there's actually a unique tier 6 Rapier that is better than the poison one that disrupts power supplies on enemy hit. This will further drain an enemy shield even faster than you would normally, and sort of combines the aspects of a ranged dart weapon that can deplete a shield with the effects of a melee weapon that can now also do the same thing, making it quite strong. Next up, we have the Specials. The Specials are some of the most OP and hardest to acquire weapons in the game, of course including your las guns, your Vulcans, which are some of the most annoying enemies, flamethrowers as well, and of course missile launchers, a great way to tackle anti-aircraft and to knock down ornithopters as a ground player. Of course, the Ancient Way is only tier 6, missile launchers only acquired at tier 6, making them one of the hardest weapons to get in the game, and also one of the most sought after, especially if you play infantry in-game in Deep Desert. This is something you're going to want in your utility for sure, for anti-aircraft. Next up is the las guns. Now, of course, I want to mention something on the las guns. Las guns cannot be used on shielded enemies. They quite literally just don't let you left click. This is, of course, a mechanism because in DUNE lore, you know what I'm getting at. There is basically a soft lock in this game, so they're not OP. It's a short story. However, what las guns are great for is, again, anti-aircraft. When a vehicle gets close, you can use a las gun to deal a significant amount of damage to an ornithopter, which is a great way to, again, tackle anti-aircraft. Next up is the Vulcans, which is an incredibly high fire rate weapon that also has some special uniques, especially at tier 6, the Plasma Cannon. The Plasma Cannon converts all damage to energy instead of darts, making it an incredible weapon. This is, again, one of my favorite recommendations. It's going to be one of the hardest to get alongside the missile launchers, and the las guns. These weapons generally are only found in testing stations and the Landsrad vendor, so these are going to be very competitive to get. Last but not least is the flamethrower, also only starting at tier 5. Again, you could imagine how annoying a flamethrower would be in PvP. It straight up passes through shields, making it a very OP weapon on in-game PvP, and also very hard to get at the same time. In the next tab, I have armor, and this is split into 2 sections: light sets, heavy sets, still suit sets, and specials. When you click on an armor set, it's going to link you to only the chest piece, but all of the armor for our armor set is located in the same area from the same chests at a different drop chance percent. So you would be farming those chests over and over again until you got a full set. Now, something I quickly want to mention is that armor and any item in the game that comes from a ultra rare chest are on 45-minute reset timers. This is effectively something called a chest run. If you're familiar with New World, it might put you off, but chests and ultra rare chests in the game, in points of interest, that have uniques that you want, will reset every 45 minutes. The nice thing about chest runs in this game, though, is that easily soloable. You can slap on your Holtzman shield, ignore enemies, go and loot the chest. It's very easy and can take literally less than 10 seconds with an ornithopter, which is incredibly nice. So again, you've got a bunch of unique still suits and armor sets that have some unique effects. Armor is more increasing base stats, especially the armor sets, but in game there's some very strong armor sets that instead of decreasing dart damage, actually increase energy, fire, and poison mitigations, making them very strong contenders for a good set, right? Last but not least is the still suits. The still suits have some pretty cool effects as well, increasing catch pocket size, heat protection most importantly, making them very strong. Next up is the specials. The specials are effectively unique pieces of gear that have unique perks effectively, and these can only be located on single pieces of gear. So single slot pieces, you can't get sets of these. They are only going to be put in one slot, and more than often have one specific use, and you would wear them on occasion when you needed to. Think of this as a gathering set or a profession set in other games where you would have something similar. So there's things that will reduce power usage by 10%, threat detection by the worm by 45%. So if you're doing compacting on the desert, if you were, messing with sandworms even, this would be a great option. There's even leggings that minus stamina dash cost by 10%. These ones could be actually decent for PvP. There's gloves that increase Dew Reaper yield, fantastic for water gains. There's ones that increase your heat protection, sunstroke rate, scanner range, and a bunch of different things like that. Again, I'm just going to have these images on screen so you can see exactly what they do, because there's so many different items to talk about. I couldn't fit them all into a concise video. We're already bordering on 4 minutes of me yapping absolute nonsense, and I highly recommend, if you ever want to look over and see what uniques there actually is, it's probably easier to check out the Excel spreadsheet in the description for yourself than hearing me say it, because it will probably make more sense. Utilities in the next tab is probably one of the bigger categories. It has a lot of different things in it and a lot of different effects that can help increase your production, especially compactors, especially cut arrays, suspensive outs, power packs are even pretty good here, Dew Reapers and Leader Johns as well. And again, this is all located in the Excel spreadsheet with the links directing to the database, so you know exactly where to get everything. Some pretty OP ones in here as well. There's actually a scanner, a handheld Life Mark III scanner that detects living people, so effectively an ESP. Now, I don't have this, I've never tried it, I don't know how OP this would actually be, if it would be a live representation once you've scanned them, if it has a massive radius, I'm not sure. That's something you would have to test, and it's only a Mark III, so that one should actually be fairly common. But again, some of these things I don't know they're, like I haven't used them gameplay-wise. I simply put this list together based on logic and all of the different options I compared it to. Some of them came out clearly on top just based on simple logic. I have over 300 hours in DUNE Awakening. 50 to, I think I have, at the time of making this video, 80 hours on live. I had 100 or 130 or so in the CBT, and then 70 or so in the open betas and the creative beta. But speaking from ours, this list again is simply put together by Logic. So if you want to check it out for yourself, I highly recommend that. Jumping over to the vehicles tab, there's actually not as much as I thought there was going to be when I was looking through the database. So the main things that I recommend on vehicles are wings and engines. There's no unique engines yet, but I've left the space there in case that ever does become a thing. And you've got buggy cutaways being one of the most important vehicle modules that you would want to get, as that's going to be massively increasing your yield and production rates, and highly sought after uniques as well. So wings, again, pretty fantastic for increasing your speed and also durability. So staying on top of those is also important, especially in the deep desert where every ounce of speed matters in an ornithopter, especially for combats. There is carrier wings as well, which is pretty cool. And as you might have noticed, I've left bikes out. In my opinion, once you get to in-game and you have an ornithopter, you tend to not really use your bike ever. I actually haven't used my bike in about 3 days since I got my ornithopters or ornithopter. I haven't really bothered with it. You generally just don't really use them anymore once you get it. You so much faster just use an orny, and that's where, you know, the wing uniques come in, etc. But for buggies, buggy cutaways being super important. And again, this was a super complicated list. I hope it made sense. There's a lot going on. I highly recommend checking it out and reading it for yourself, seeing what might interest you, clicking on the link to see where you can farm it, you know. And I hope this helps. I hope this gives you an idea of the kind of builds you want to make, the kind of things you can do, and the kind of things you can get. With that said, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.